I was recently talking with a mom all about sibling jealousy. She wanted to talk specifically about her kids. We'll call them Emma and Jack here. And Emma really felt overshadowed by Jack because Jack was popular, he was an all star sports player, and she just felt inadequate at times. Well, she would lash out at Jack by showing off how smart she was. When report cards came, she'd brag, or anytime she got 100 on another test, she was there making sure that Jack knew just how well she did. This led to arguments in the home and fights over who got to sit in what seat in the car, and you know what it's like. Let me tell you what I showed this mom all about sibling jealousy and three keys that we need to develop in the hearts of our children to start unlocking more peace and harmony in sibling relationships. The Bible gives us some insights into the nature and consequences of jealousy. Undoubtedly, you're thinking about Cain and Abel, but there's other stories as well. Think about Joseph and his brothers as Joseph was spending some time down at the bottom of the well and getting sold into slavery. You could also think about Saul and David, who weren't necessarily siblings, but certainly there was a lot of jealousy on Saul's part. In all these stories and more, we see that the consequences of jealousy lead to destruction and to places we don't want our children to go. The first of three heart qualities we want to grow in our children when they're struggling with jealousy is contentment. The Bible teaches us that we should be content in all circumstances, and it also shows us that a content life is well worth living. You can help develop contentment in your child's life by helping them focus more on their blessings rather than their burdens. Children will look naturally at what things are wrong and what things are hard, but instead, at those moments, get them to focus on their blessings instead. Having a regular time of Thanksgiving in your family around a meal or just at prayer time also helps develop this characteristic in the heart of a child. It also helps to teach your children to set goals based on their own performance and improvement rather than looking at other children and how they could do better than those people. Look at how you can improve for yourself. This helps reduce competitiveness among siblings and also highlights a biblical example Jesus gives us. Think about when Peter goes to Jesus and is talking to Jesus after the resurrection about what's going to happen to him and other ones. And he points to the disciple John and says, well, what about him? And Jesus looks at Peter and says, what does it matter if he lives to a ripe old age and you not? You need to not be concerned about that, Peter. Focus on you. That's what we want to do when we're cultivating contentment in children's hearts. Gratitude is a second heart quality we want to develop in children, where we're teaching them to be thankful for all that they've been blessed with. This is closely related to contentment. To develop gratefulness in your child's heart, you want to start implementing regular thankfulness practices in your family. That might mean in prayer time together, starting off with praises rather than just prayer requests. It might mean going around the table at dinner time and talking about things you're thankful for that happened that day. These don't have to be big, huge milestone events. Simple little things like being thankful that the coffee tasted good today, or that your car had just enough gas to get to the gas station today, or whatever it might be, are ways to show that God's interested in the small details of our lives. It also helps to start getting children involved in acts of service and kindness to others, whether that's informally to neighbors or friends at church, or formally through volunteering with a local organization or with your church. Having children have opportunities to see and serve others who are less fortunate starts to help them see what they have and the blessings they have in their lives from God, which develops thankfulness in their hearts. Honor is the third heart quality we want to develop in our children, and you've heard me talk about this here on this channel before. Honor is when we treat others as special, do more than what's expected, and have a good attitude. And honestly, if we're working on honor as our focus, we're going to naturally start developing gratitude and contentment as well. When we're looking for ways to treat others as special and do more than what's expected and have a good attitude, we are naturally living our lives in the way that Jesus is calling us to. Some great examples are right there in the Bible. Obviously, anything Jesus is doing is showing honor typically, but you can go to Ruth living with Naomi and staying with her, even though that wasn't expected of her. You can think of Rebecca at the well giving the stranger a cup of water and also watering all those camels when that was not expected. She was treating that stranger as special, doing more than what was expected, and she had a good attitude. Or you could even think about the story in Luke 15 of the prodigal sons, where the father is the one honoring a son who didn't deserve to be honored, right? He embarrassed the family and treated the father horribly. And yet, through an act of forgiveness in advance, the father looks for ways to treat his son as special, do more than what's expected, and he had a great attitude. Modeling honor by the way you live as an adult is so important because more is caught than taught to our children. You also then can invite your children to sort of co-honor with you by saying things like, hey, I'm going to go, whatever you're going to do, I'm going to go clean up your brother's room. Why don't you come help me? We'll honor him together. Or I'm going to go make a special meal for daddy because I know he loves this. Why don't you help me? I want to honor him. Or we're going to go do this for mommy. Why don't you come with me? We'll honor her together. That co-honoring really gets children on board in a lot of ways. And then you can turn around and issue honor challenges to your children once you've given them a good definition of honor, which you have in this video, and given some examples through biblical stories, which you have in this video. You can go ahead and start issuing honor challenges to them. And it doesn't have to be anything big. We're not having to redo the whole house. Simply making little place cards for the dinner table that are pretty, or writing a little note to a sibling, or, when your kids come in with that whole handful of dandelions from outside and go, here, mommy, this is for you. That's honor. They're treating you as special. They're doing more than what's expected, and they have a good attitude. Emma and Jack's mom really took a hold of this whole honor idea and began implementing it in her home right away. She even grabbed a free resource I have, I'll put the link down below for you, and began using some of the resources in there to help teach her kids all about honor and actually go ahead and do it. The result? Everything was perfect from here on out with Emma and Jack. No, right? That's not the case. They still had problems, okay? But it was a lot better. Instead of mostly negative days with an occasional positive interaction, it was mostly positive interactions with an occasional negative interaction. But mom now had the tools for addressing those negative interactions as well. You can grab those tools down below, and you'll also want to